The great Don Shula, 86 years young. You know, we've told you so much about Chuck Noll and his 4 Super Bowls and how much Mr. Noll loved a good bottle of wine. And speaking of that, Coppola, as in Francis Ford Coppola from the Napa Valley, 2014. Your Pratt Pack stopped at one of the fine wine and spirit stores earlier tonight because we've got a big weekend and we're going to be doing a lot of toasting of this great wine. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But, you know, I want to talk about Don Shula. Grand River, Ohio, on the shores of Lake Erie. He was born 86 years ago. Steelers playing the Dolphins this weekend. And, you know, you can't help but think about him and the connection to Dan Marino, obviously. Second year in the NFL. They went to the Super Bowl. But Mr. Shula's career began many, many years ago, in which he was a pretty good football player. Out of John Carroll University, at one time he was considering being a Catholic priest during a retreat, but he decided to commit his life to football, and what a job he did. He was offered an opportunity to coach Canton Lincoln High School out of John Carroll, but he decided, because he was drafted in 1951 in the 9th round by the Cleveland Browns, to play football. The Ohio National Guard, because of the Korean conflict, they had to step out for a little while, and then he came back to the Browns. And as they say, what a career for the Cleveland Browns. And this is truly when the Browns were great. This was coming off of Otto Graham and Marion Motley in a world title team in the early 50s. And of course, you think about the Browns, you think about Paul Brown and many others, the great Jim Brown. But I also think about Chuck Noll was a player there. So that part of Ohio, very significant to us here in Western Pennsylvania. His first head coaching job with the Colts, Baltimore Colts, at the age of 33. Youngest at that time in the National Football League. And believe it or not, only 2 losing seasons in a 36-year career. Hall of Fame in 1997. And this guy, when you think about winning as coach in the NFL, guess who you think of? Don Shula. Just some of the other notes that I put together that were so impressive about this guy. In the season of 1968, a young man had to make a decision. Johnny Unitas, the great Johnny U, was suffering from an injury. So he sat him, and Earl Morrall took over. You all remember Earl Morrall and that amazing flat top haircut of his, right? Well, when Johnny U, the legend, was starting to feel better, he tried to ease him back into the lineup, but he just couldn't go. But Earl Morrall did, and they went all the way to Super Bowl III, but they ran into another great quarterback who you might remember, Joe Willie Namath. And then after the season of 1969, he went to South Beach, where the Steelers will be playing football this Sunday in Miami at 1 o'clock. And in 71, 72, 73, and 82, he took those Dolphins to the Super Bowl. And with Bob Griese in 1972, who can forget, unblemished, only team to do it. When it was all said and done, they had a Super Bowl win, the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and they finished at 17-0. So I salute you, Mr. Shula. You are someone that my family, we look up to. And believe it or not, when you were coaching, I always wanted you to win. And when you were playing the Steelers, and sometimes they got the better of you, I actually felt bad for you because I put you in the same category as some of the greatest of all time. And of course, I'm talking about Chuck Noll. Now, Mr. Noll would be proud because he loved his wine. This coming weekend, we're going to be at DeSalvo Station in Latrobe, where the Steelers still train to this day. And I'm sure many of them, probably Mr. Noll, had a glass of wine or two during his coaching days. We're going to be talking to Joey DeSalvo, getting you ready for the Taste the Good Life, which is coming up later this month. And we're also going to be talking to the mayor, Mayor Rosie Wolford, about the upcoming election. Now, speaking of that, and of course, Joey's going to tell you all about this incredible Napa Valley wine because of Francis Ford Coppola, you know, the man behind the Godfather trilogy, Apocalypse Now, wonderful human being. And I was watching an interview with Charlie Rose on PBS YouTube from 1994. And he talked all about his family and how they were one of the first families to eat pizza for dinner. I can relate to that, Mr. Coppola. We were doing the same thing back in the 60s. But he was talking about, when he was asked a question, where movies were going to be going, the next step. This was in 1994, and he talked about more family-oriented stuff and what people do in their day-to-day lives. And I think that's what this election is all about. It's about the middle class. It's about what people do every day and how they're striving to take care of their family. So we're going to talk to Mayor Rosie Wolford, also in Latrobe at DeSalvo Station. We'll be giving you those video blogs late Sunday night. And speaking of the election, you may want to just mark this down. Monday night, right after the Allegheny Health Network program, Medical Frontiers at 8, U.S. Senate race. You heard Dr. Terry Madonna on my program earlier this week. about a percentage point. That's all Pat Toomey has in the way of a lead against Katie McGinty. We're going to have that for you in its entirety, the debate beginning at 8 o'clock, and then I'll be on the air after that to talk to TV2's John Delano. We'll debate it, and we'll give you a chance to phone in. And then, on Wednesday night at 9 Eastern, it's the third and final presidential debate from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Chris Wallace, the son of Mike Wallace, he is an anchor at Fox News. He'll be the moderator, and of course, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So, cheers to your weekend. Enjoy some great football and Coppola wine at a fine wine and spirit store nearest you. And here, Mr. Coach Shula. Good night, everybody.